We are Southern Illinois.
Nearly trapped. House around Feddersen. Surveys his way to the rim and a lob and a dunk with by Rollins of League Bay. Beautiful pass by House. Up to Rollins. 61-58, 14:30 to go in the game.
It's time for Saluki basketball.
Stepanowicz. That buys it near midcourt. House steals it around his back. House all the way to the rack. Zigzagging his way and lays it in. And all of a sudden the Dogs, they are barking here in Fargo. 61-60, 14-15 to go in the game. Feddersen on the near wing. Shot fakes, penetrates. Lost it as it was stripped by Stafford. Goes in the chest of House. House up ahead to Sykes. Sykes quickly down. Two-handed slam to tie the game at 67.
Now, here is the voice of the Salukis, Luke Martin.
Welcome everybody back to your Saluki basketball podcast. Along with the Hall of Famer Rodney Watson, I am Luke Martin. It's so great to have you with us as Salukis are on the road again. It's an MTE in sunny Jacksonville, Florida. We'll be there starting, technically the team will get there on Friday, and then we'll have the games on Sunday, Monday, before turning right back around on the road to Memphis on Wednesday, and then be back at home in Banterra against Arkansas Little Rock. But we'll get to those games when we do. It's time to focus on Delaware and UAB, which will be the two teams that Southern will play, with Delaware first on Sunday, then UAB on Monday. But we'll have a very special guest here on the podcast today, as Delaware head coach Martin Inglesby will join us as well, which is going to be a very entertaining conversation. I think our fans will enjoy us. Coach Watson, good to see you. Not done on the road. Our travel will just continue to pick up here over the next couple of weeks, but Southern, at least now, you charter back, you get back at a decent time on Monday to set yourselves up for what's going to be a really busy week, starting for this team with travel Friday, game on Sunday, and then game Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday.
You know, what's interesting about the travel to North Dakota State in Fargo, North Dakota, it seems, I mean, you're not very far from Canada, literally, and with the ability to charter fly, I mean, the only game that you can play, Division I game, that's quicker to get to than SEMO would be Fargo when you charter that way. It was amazing just how Southern travels. I know Coach was frustrated after the game and mentioned that, but and you know, there's some responsibility with all this. I mean, you know, that was his point. I think that, you know, when you're treated first class, you've got to return that the first class gesture in return. But man, Southern travels well. You know, and we'll get into it more, but I think this is playing out exactly what you want in November. You're really finding out where you stand. They got a little confidence with McKendree. They played a good basketball game against Kansas City. They go to Nevada. They passed the toughness test, couldn't finish off the last 3 minutes of that game, and then go to North Dakota State and, again, played against a really smart, good, skilled team. And so Southern practices this week really knowing what they've got to get better at, what they've got to continue to do well.
I think your point was spot on, Coach Watson. We understand, right? When you're in the thick of it, when you're going through competition, we all will look at it from a Saluki perspective. And here on the podcast, that's what of course we will look at the majority of the time. But tip your cap to Coach Richmond and his group on Monday. And we also said, hey, get out of your mind that this team can't shoot the basketball. Granted, Southern had defensive breakdowns in that first half to help lead to those 14 threes that they had in the first 20 minutes. But you and I both knew the Bison were going to shoot it way better at home. And, man, they really dictated. Southern wants to play with pace. Me and the Bison were really able to play with that pace too and use it to their advantage during the game.
I would think that something Southern's learning about themselves is that Southern's good at playing with pace. In the first half, when you're having trouble getting stops, you're still putting pressure on North Dakota State. They could never get away from Southern. They got it to about 10, 11, I think, in the first half. Southern closed the gap a little bit, cut it to 7, but they shot 63% from the field. That's a crazy number. When you look at the stats of that game, it really didn't really add up, except for one thing. And I alluded to it after the game, but I didn't explain it very well. Southern does a great job playing with pace, something Coach Nagy has brought here from his whole coaching time. And when you talk to any other coach about a Coach Nagy team, that's the first thing they talk about, is how they will put pressure on the defense by getting the ball off the floor. And Southern, you cannot fault them going to where their bread and butter. they really score inside. Their points in the paint was so lopsided in that game, but the three-point shot is a big deal. And this is where the offensive pace comes in. Southern's got to keep playing with that pace, but what this group's got to realize, pace is two ways. It's not pace. The offensive pace is just half of it. The defensive pace, the transition defense, is just as important as pushing the ball up a team's back. And Stefanovic, the point guard for North Dakota State, they didn't matter where they scored inside or whatever. That guy got the ball and he got to the baseline really fast, and that led to 21 three-point attempts by North Dakota State. And I don't have the exact number on this, but it seemed like most of them were step-in jumpers, not uncontested, but not heavily contested, where they had to decide whether they're going to shoot over contest or put the ball on the deck. It was a step-in shot. It wasn't an issue whether they're going to shoot or not. And not all of them were right on the arc, but by and large, North Dakota State did a great job of playing with pace also. And Southern certainly this week, we used to call the drill rush, or Sam Weaver called the get-back drill, where you do whether it's 5-on-4+1 or 3, whatever denomination you want, where you do a disadvantage where the offensive team starts the baseline, then go as hard as they can. You've got four guys running back and the last guy's trailing to pick up. I would think a heavy dose of transition defense was in store for the Salukis this week, because that, in all reality, that was the one piece. Southern didn't play well. They were very interested. I know there was some frustration, discussed, but man, you can't be disinterested and shoot 63% in the first half. Now you've got to get way more urgent. There's got to be urgency, as when that ball goes up, goes to the net, or the other team gets it, you've got to sprint back and you've got to cover shooters. That was the one major default or deficiency that Southern had in that game.
Like, to me, you think back to last year, right? And look, this team is, as we have described, I think, to our fans, and we hope continues the trend in that direction, and I think it will trend in that direction. This group is much better than they were a year ago, but I thought a lot of, man, how bad that first half was against Eastern Kentucky last year in the MTE, where it seemed like there wasn't much of any sort of stoppage from a defensive perspective. Eastern Kentucky got anything that they wanted, got a lot of open shots. What Southern did is, as you described, Coach Watson, I think they deserve the credit, especially doing it on the road, not in a neutral venue, to get down by as many as 12, to come back, to ultimately take the lead. And then, as we described on the radio, it was a 4-minute game in the final 4 minutes. And, man, give credit to NDSU. They made big-time shots down the stretch of that game that ultimately got them over the hump.
It was North Dakota State's got a good team. They're skilled. I mentioned the point guard, but then they had a guy named Strickland. He doesn't even think about doing anything but going to the rim and scoring at the restriction arc. And it seemed like that North Dakota State team did a terrific job on the offensive end, but they also did a really nice job in switching their defenses. They went to a 1-3-1, as you described during the game, that took away the free throw element. Southern's been great against zones, man. I can't up to that point, I couldn't wait for a team to play as whether it's Nevada or McKendree or whoever it was. Southern knows right where to get the ball in the heart of the defense, then look down the floor or look out for shooters. North Dakota State did a nice job of tweaking their zone, taking away that middle pass into the middle of the lane, made it hard for Southern to get a new angle. Southern will practice that. They'll take more, get more reps at seeing that type of zone as well. And I have no doubt that won't be the issue.
For SIU, as we really head into this week, you kind of touched up on, no doubt, transition defense. Ironically, that was an area that I talked about with Coach Nagy in pregame, heading into of where he felt that was no doubt going to be an area of improvement. But just in terms of the takeaways, Coach Watson, there are always those moments where a team throughout a season, you always don't have the best feelings when you come off a game like that. But the beauty of this thing is, like we just described, you hope it ends up being a beauty. You get another opportunity Sunday, you'll turn right back an opportunity, have another one on Monday, then Wednesday, then Saturday. I mean, right now in the season, you got to maximize the walkthroughs and all the different things that we have described throughout our coverage. It's so important. Yes, learn from it, but also it's not time to get bent out of shape here on November 20th, because there's so much basketball left to go.
Oh, no question. I mean, and just not around it nearly as much as you are, Luke, but when we're on the road, I get to be more inside. I love what's being taught on both ends of the floor. We got to also talk about another factor in that North Dakota State game. Jalen Haynes is an important piece.
Yeah.
He's definitely in the 9-man rotation, and he's an important guard that he can do various things. He can handle the ball. He can give House, he can give him a break. He can score the ball, especially in transition. Defensively, his length was a big reason, along with Mayo and Sykes and even Moreno. Those four guys came in at one time and got the game flipped after that, after the start of the game. So Jalen Haynes was a key factor in that game. Hopefully Southern can get him back, because Southern needs to have all hands on deck. Going back to that Eastern Kentucky game a year ago, you think about it, when you're redefining yourself, when you lose your leading scorer, in a game prior at Florida, man, it's not fun to watch it. It's not fun to be a part of it. Certainly not fun to describe it, but it's understandable why you can have a funky game like that after you lose a person. So hopefully you knock on wood, do whatever the lucky signs are that you want to do, is that hopefully Southern doesn't have to redefine themselves with personnel.
Good news is Jalen Haynes is progressing, expected to be back this weekend, which that is really good, because you say Coach Watson, there's so much he brings on the floor. I mean, you talk about a great personality as well. I mean, he does a lot of really good things for this team. That's more than just on the court. Before we kind of send it in to our Delaware conversation, kind of last thing that I want to pick up on is, as you said, there are guys that came into that game again and really got the game flipped. It wasn't one of those games where you saw that score continue to balloon and get out of whack. And two guys specifically, I mean, Jorge deserves no doubt some recognition for his performance that he had, but you intermix Damian Mayo, Davion Sykes, man, those guys, those seniors, they're being seniors, and they're going to need to be seniors as we go throughout this year and be big impact guys.
What I like about all three of them, I described it in our before the last game. Those guys, they pass the look test for wanting to win, and here's the reason why. They don't experiment, man, especially on the offensive end. You can see people experimenting throughout college basketball, high school, whatever, even NBA guys. If you follow it really closely, if you know a team well enough, you'll say, what is he doing there? These three guys, they're not experimenting. They know where they can get work done on the offensive end. They're really solid defensively. These guys are solid defensive players. They not only pay attention to the scouting report and to the scheme of what's going on, they seem to know where to be in gaps. They have length. They have aggressive, really aggressive personalities on the defensive end. They can get us scoring out of their defense, and this team needs it.
Let's transition into this weekend now with the Jacksonville Classic starting on Sunday against Delaware and then Monday against UAB. We're going to welcome on Martin Inglesby, the head coach of the Delaware Fighting Blue Hens. And as we were kind of going through, it was funny, and we'll get to it towards the end of our conversation with him. It's going to be his second game against SIU, his first game against the Saluki. It's the only game, by the way, in program history between these two programs, was also in the state of Florida when they were playing Coach Mullins and his group in his first season. And it's great to hear that he has recollections of that game as well. But it's not often that the Fighting Blue Hens are on the schedule. They're now transitioning from the CAA into Conference USA. So it's their first year in Conference USA, of course, along with former Valley School in Missouri State. But, man, what you and I both know, Coach Watson, I think a lot of Saluki fans know too, just because there's such a basketball savvy and such a basketball knowledge base here. But when you grew up in the state of Indiana like I did, and you basically near it and coached in the state, yes, Gene Cady, Bob Knight, those guys get talked about so much, but Mike Bray did tremendous things at Notre Dame and was just, to be honest with you, I can't think of another word than just consistent. He was a consistent winner during his time at Notre Dame, and doing the research on Coach Inglesby, man, this guy was a huge part of that consistency, being there for his first year. And then ironically, you look, whereas Mike Bray coached before he got to Notre Dame? Delaware. It's amazing just how all of those guys really intertwine.
Really impressive guy. I don't remember him a lot, but I do remember when he played, he had that John Stockton look about him, the hair parted, the really neat cut and all that stuff. And And I know this, Notre Dame, as you said, they were consistent from that time where Coach Bray got there. And as we were talking about it and kind of diving into Delaware, what Coach Bray did at Notre Dame, you think about Digger Phelps and you think about all the time he was there and Adrian Dantley and those people and beating UCLA, they breaking their streak and all that stuff. But it was Mike Bray's team that went to the most NCAA tournaments and the consistent appearances in the tournaments, the Elite Eight appearance, and certainly Coach Inglesby is very much a part of that as an assistant there.
Yes, 2003 to 2016 is when he was at Notre Dame. 8 NCAA tournament appearances. I believe 2 of those went to the Elite Eight. So really some deep runs that he was a part of during his time at Notre Dame. And, of course, now in his 10th season as the Delaware head coach. So let's welcome on the head coach of the Fighting Blue Hens, Martin Inglesby. So great to welcome on the first opponent for the Salukis this weekend as we get ready for the MTE down there in Jacksonville. Martin Inglesby, head coach of the Delaware Fighting Blue Hens. And Coach Watson, I know a lot about this guy, me growing up in Indiana. Of course, Coach Watson coaching in Indiana for years at Southern Indiana. Coach Inglesby spent a ton of time up north in South Bend at Notre Dame. Coach Inglesby, thanks so much for the time. How's the season been to this point for you and the Fighting Blue Hens?
Yeah, well, it's great to be with you guys. And as Indiana guys, I went to ND and you talk football, but it is a basketball place, man. It is a basketball state. So, I had many great memories out there. For us, not up to the best start. As you guys know, with the changing landscape of college athletics and rosters getting turned upside down, we're excited about the group we've added, but we've been a little injury plagued to start the preseason and early stages of the season. So just trying to figure out who we are, trying to get a sense of a little bit of identity on both ends of the floor. Obviously came off a win the other night, so give us a little bit of momentum as we head down to Florida. But just, early stages, work in progress, trying to just kind of develop a little chemistry with this group and learn from each other every day.
Coach, you mentioned it. Look, everybody knows you're going to be a much different team once you get to the month of March, and you should be and you want to be, and that's ultimately the goal. And part of your job is to manage the emotions of that early season. So how have you really just said, hey, this is what's key for me right now, knowing you got some key guys out, you're ultimately going to get them back at some point, and just know that you're trying to get the best picture you can at this point, but also building towards where you ultimately want to be come the end of the year?
Yeah, I think just controlling what we can control every day. And my joy as a coach is being on the floor with our guys every day and trying to help them get better individually and collectively. As we've gotten a little healthier with Justin Fernandez available and back in the fold Tuesday night, you get a little semblance of maybe who we can be. So there's a little giddiness and we're excited about, hey, how do we incorporate this new important piece to our group? But also we don't want to, take a step back and set back any other individuals or young guys that have kind of making progress. So, just trying to keep your head down, go to work every day, trust the process of what we do, and just trying to give our guys the best effort with practice every day. And just kind of, we lost to a Division II team. Obviously, that was a tough game and trying to block out the noise, but really just focusing on like keeping our head down and getting back to work and chopping wood every day. And then just, I'm a big believer in giving guys confidence on the offensive end, especially, and just getting guys to kind of play with the best of their ability, have a great attitude every day, and just working to maybe learn from some of the mistakes that we made early stages of the season so we can minimize those moving forward.
Coach, when you took the job 10 years ago at Delaware, coming from Notre Dame, both as a player, then as a longtime assistant coach there, you mentioned in your presser, you talked about the 3 C's: character, competitiveness, and can they pass and shoot? Do those things still hold up? And specifically, talk about your thinking with the pass and shoot concept.
Yeah, very much so. I think I stole that from my old Notre Dame days when Danny Ferry was at the Atlanta Hawks. He came by our hotel, and that was kind of how they were trying to build, their program and organization back up. And I just thought it really resonated with me. It resonated with who we were at Notre Dame. And one, it's all about the people. Got to get the right guys on the bus that are going to work hard every day and represent our program. And then guys that compete, and trying to identify those through the recruiting process and now the transfer portal. And I'm a big believer in like recruiting skilled basketball players. I'll give up on athleticism kind of any day of the week to get guys that are really unselfish. They share the basketball, they make open shots. My guys bring a lot of recruits to me, hey, this kid could be good for us. One of my first questions, maybe second question besides like, hey, what type of person is he? Like, hey, can he shoot the basketball? The best teams that I've coached, the best teams that I've been a part of have always been really efficient on the offensive end. That is really what we tried to identify here when we recruit kids into our program. Quite frankly, the last couple of years, we've recruited too good of players, and we haven't maybe reaped the benefits of having guys here for 2 and 3 years due to the transfer portal. We've helped a lot of guys make a lot of money over the last couple of years. But I'm always going to stay true to those pillars and kind of who we are and our core values. We want to be able to share the basketball offensively. We want to be able to give up a good one to get a great one, be unselfish. That's kind of who I was as a player. That's how we played at Notre Dame. And that's kind of what I preach every day with our guys here at Delaware.
With the changing landscape, obviously you talked about the NIL. We all know the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week free agency it's going on right now as well. But it also seems like did you feel like maybe your AD was kind of tricking you a little bit when they decided, hey, on top of that, let's go ahead and switch leagues to Conference USA. So how does that fit into what you're going through this year?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of excitement around it. Obviously, it's great for our university. It's even better for football to be able to go to FBS. We've had a kind of a year to prepare for this. I think for us as we attack the transfer portal, we build our roster. We talked about the exposure, the visibility that we will get being a part of Conference USA. Growing up a basketball guy, I always think of Conference USA as such a great basketball conference. Florida Atlantic the last couple of years, 2 or 3 years ago, went to the Final Four out of Conference USA. So there's a lot of buzz about it. Now, maybe I didn't expect as we looked at some of the travel and the trips that we're going to take this year, how widespread geographically we're going to be. But again, we've kind of prepared this summer a little bit, getting a feel for who the teams are in the league, get a sense of how they play. I look at every one of these games this year as like a non-conference game for us because they're so new. But I think our group is excited to be able to experience Conference USA, what it can be. And, again, our focus early stages of this year is just trying to get better one day at a time.
As Coach Watson mentioned, Coach Inglesby, look, there's so much that has changed in your profession since you've been at Delaware, let alone dating all the way back to when you were playing. But when you think back to when you first got to meet Coach Bray and when he came in your senior year at Notre Dame, of course, you ultimately got to work with him on staff. What is a foundation thing from him that you learned that he taught you early as a player that you still believe today is important to have and that you try to mimic within your program right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many things I learned from Coach Bray, and I was fortunate to play for him for 1 year and be a senior captain, and then be on the staff at 13 years with him. Just the relationships that he was able to build with his players, and the honesty and the truthful conversations that he would have with guys to be able to help them become the best versions of themselves. And that's what I've tried to kind of spearhead with our program here, our coaching staff. Hey, we're going to recruit you to our program and we're going to help you become a better basketball player. And kind of the track record of success with guys that we've had, guys that we've coached. Mike was the ultimate guy to give players confidence. And, we as assistants, some days we'd be down on guys. We'd want guys to get out of the starting lineup, and the coach would be like, yeah, I just took that guy to breakfast. And then the next night that guy would have 20 points and he'd be confident. He'd be on an unbelievable run. So he was, he had such a knack for understanding people and kind of how to connect with guys that I try to mimic here and learn from, and just really develop that rapport. And it could be meeting them on campus to get breakfast. It could be a film session in my office. It could be, coming in late at night with a guy who's struggling making shots, and, we're just on the court together and I'm rebounding and maybe I'm getting some shots out with him. And, just know that our guys know that Coach Ingleby's got their back, and, we're on this journey together, and we're going to keep working every day. So, Mike was a master of that, and that is probably what we'll learn from him the most.
I'll be honest with you, Coach Inglesby, in doing preparation for this game, I kind of forgot how big of an impact Coach Bray had at Delaware as well.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
when the opportunity presented itself to be the head coach at Delaware, and now, of course, being there for a really strong tenure. One, how big of an influence did Coach Bray have on, hey, this is a good job for you? And two, how he still helps you to this day being there at Delaware and his connections.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not here today, 10 years after getting the job, without Coach Bray and his influence, and kind of making a lot of calls and advocating for me to be the head coach here. We had a great run at Notre Dame, and I was a part of two back-to-back Elite Eight runs. We won the ACC championship, and as an assistant, you're kind of working your way up the pecking order. And I had some opportunities. I actually had the Stony Brook job and decided to turn it down because I was waiting to see what happened with Delaware. Now, Coach Bray thought I was out of my mind turning a college basketball job down. But I just really wanted to be at Delaware. I grew up maybe an hour from here. I wanted to be back on the East Coast. I thought this was like a sleeping giant of an opportunity for us to be able to build it. This community, this fan base, this campus, it fits me. It fits my family. I couldn't be more excited to be the head basketball coach here. Now things have changed since we got here. That has turned our sport upside down, but we're trying to navigate that stuff every day. And again, I can't tell you how many times, Rodney, you're coach, and I'm driving up 95 after a tough day, and I say to myself, like, how would Coach Bray handle this? And, a lot of times I'll text him or call him. He's down in Atlanta now with the Atlanta Hawks, but he's been such a great mentor for me, such a great coach, such a great guy that I can just lean on through some tough times and help me think outside the box and through some situations that he's kind of been my lifeline and guided me as best he can.
Coach, your program kind of, in some respects, mirrors a little bit where the Salukis are right now. They have 6 returners as well, and as you do, you have 9 new guys. One of your pillars you mentioned is competitiveness, and you want to bring in guys that are state champions. And one guy that has really lived up to his billing, and I'm interested to know the influence you're having on this sophomore, is Macon Emery. He's a guy that averaged just under 4 points last year, kind of, not really a big deal stat line. And man, he's gotten off to a big start. What's kind of clicking for him?
Yeah, I mean, one, he's the ultimate competitor. I mean, 6'8", he's long and athletic. He's probably our most impactful guy on both ends of the floor. He's made a big jump from his freshman and sophomore year. And that's where we always talk about skill development, player development, and guys get better here. And I always see guys from year 1 to year 2 make a big jump. He's always in the gym. He's worked so hard. He's improving on both ends of the floor. I think he's kind of growing into who he is as a basketball player. He got a little bit of a taste of it last year. And quite frankly, we had John Camden, who was a guy that he competed against every day. He ended up going to Cal. We were hoping to get him back, and Macon really slid into a starting spot. So he's taken advantage of that. He's a guy that we can play small with. We can play big on the wing with. He shot the ball well. And again, I think he's just a competitive guy that really impacts the game. And, what I've been most proud of is his ability to rebound the basketball. We didn't do that very well last year as a group. We got Tyler Hauser back, a big 6'8", kind of rugged center. A little concerned about our ability to rebound the basketball, but he's done it in 4 games so far. He did it at BYU against their front line. We're going to need him to continue to be a presence on the defensive backboard for us. But, couldn't be more excited about him and his future in our program.
You mentioned Justin Fernandez.
Yep.
He just played his first game coming off an injury. What will he bring to your team?
Yeah, I mean, he's an older, experienced guy. He played in the Big East. He was the first guy we met with in the transfer portal. He was an important guy for us to try to get into our program with what we lost. I think he's a 3-way guy. He can guard. He can make shots. You can post him up. Just a guy that's got a taste of college basketball. He's a man, and he's been practicing with us for the last 2 weeks. But I just think an important piece for us on the perimeter that can impact the game and do a little bit of everything well.
Coach, one of the areas, and again, it's part of the day and age where you go back to a lot of your core values and what you look at in terms of recruiting in the speed dating style that is the transfer portal. When you look at guys who come from schools, Christian Bliss, great example, comes in from Virginia, didn't get any game experience, but how you and your staff go about, okay, is he the right fit? Does he have exactly what we want from that Power 5 experience?
Yeah, I mean, that was a little bit of our strategy with the portal this year is high major guys that had, competed at a high level that maybe hadn't got the opportunity. And then we've had success with those guys, right? We took Dylan Painter from Villanova. He was probably the best big guy in the CAA. We took Niles Lane from Florida. He had a great career. John Camden was at Virginia Tech and Memphis. So, again, taking that page out of the book and trying to implement it to this roster, I think worked well for us. A lot of the transfers we've taken too, we recruited a little bit at some point throughout their career. I went to see Christian Bliss when he was a sophomore. I went to see Jameel Brown when he was a junior, local guys. So there's a little bit of, connection there, relationships, obviously, where we're located with a lot of these Philly, DC, Baltimore, AAU programs and high schools. But I hope that will help us. And again, you're getting a lot of these talented guys, and it's my job and our staff jobs to try to get them to play together and get them to play as one and as a team. So, again, we're a work in progress there, but I do think we have some pieces that as they continue to develop through the next 4+ months, hopefully, that we can really develop a chemistry and create like a good deep basketball team.
One of the things that stood out to me too, Coach Inglesby, about your team, and again, a lot of it, I'm sure, is just terms of guys' availability and all those things early on in the season. But you have three true freshmen, I believe, who are averaging double-digit minutes.
Yeah.
What have those guys shown to you outside of just maybe at times necessity needing to play them, but also, look, you're going to play the guys who you believe give you the best chance to win. And when you have three true freshmen that are averaging 10+ minutes a game, to me, there shows that there's a level of faith that you have in those guys.
There is, yeah. I mean, they're all talented guys. It's crazy to say that we're having that many freshmen get that many minutes, but with our numbers and where we've been health wise, those guys have been kind of thrown to the fire, which they all kind of fit a need for us. We got Mason Ellison, who's kind of a combo guard that can disrupt the basketball, can make open shots, and I think is an evolving basketball player. Jaden Taylor, who's a freak athlete. He's a local kid. He played 37 minutes at BYU and held his own on the front line. And then Alex Kazanecki comes from a great high school basketball program at Cincinnati Moeller. And he can make shots and spread the floor, and he's getting better on the defensive end. So my hope is that getting these guys minutes and experience early stages of the year will help us when we get some of our experience back, and then we get through, navigate the next couple months as we get through this college basketball season and Conference USA starts, that we feel confident to be able to throw those guys into the mix.
Coach, what's the scouting report say about the Salukis to your team?
Yeah, I mean, House is very talented. Obviously, can score the basketball, got great quickness. They play a lot of guys. I think our ability to kind of keep it at our pace and tempo will be important. With our front line, to be able to keep them off the backboard with the two big kids. We actually recruited the Prince a little bit when he was transferring from Seton Hall and BC, and then they're trying to figure it out as well, just like us. But they have two really talented guards that can score the basketball. I think the guys that are coming off the bench give them good minutes and pop, and I think it'll be two teams that are pretty efficient offensively. So they like to play at a nice pace. They get up and down. They shoot the ball, pretty well from the 3-point line. Not high usage rate, but I think our ability to kind of keep them out of the paint, rebound the basketball, will be keys for us as we get ready for Sunday.
Coach, one of the areas that it's a no doubter when Coach Nagy within his program, they preach rebounding. And it is an importance in terms of their DNA and what they want to do. And it shows in games. For you, what's an area of your program that is an everyday, man, this is huge to us, what we want to look like from a basketball standpoint, that you hope also translate when you guys hit the floor?
Yeah, I mean, one of my biggest pet peeves is taking care of the basketball. Again, I was a former point guard. We don't want to beat ourselves. We want to be able to really be good with the basketball. We were great at BYU. We were not very good against St. Peter's. Now, as you guys know, every game's different style of play. They pressed the whole game. We did a great job in the first half, and then we were careless in the second half. So, can we possess the basketball? Can we value it? Can we make extra ones and kind of put pressure on SIU as we get into our offense? And again, on the defensive end, we have not been the best defensive team. So, trying to change defenses and mix it up to keep people on their heels is something that we've tried to focus on. And, it'd be a great challenge for us on the backboard. They have size. They have more size and physicality and beef than we do on the front line. So we're going to have to really go to battle to limit them to one shot.
And then really my last question for you, Coach Inglesby, and we really appreciate the time, is Do you have something in your contract where you can only play the Salukis in Florida? Because the last meeting was also in the
Really?
Sunshine Slam. That was a neutral meeting. It was actually Coach Mullins' first season as the head coach here at Southern. That was back in November of 2019. So, and if it makes you feel any better, you went 3-0.
Yeah, we did. We
So,
had some good. Well, we survived. We survived Oakland in a game that was like, I believe it was like 58-56.
56-53 was the
Yep.
final.
And then
Yeah.
out of Southern Illinois, they had the kid that went to Illinois who was a great player. I think it was
The mask.
the mask. And yeah, they were trying to figure it out. We were trying to figure it out. I think we made one or two more shots than them. We had the kid Nate Darling and Justin Mutz were two really good players for us. But I actually had that T-shirt I was wearing it the other night. It's crazy to say I still have it. But any chance I can get to take my team to Florida, we will do it. So, get out of this cool weather up here in Newark, Delaware. And we know it's going to be a heck of a battle. Great respect for their program, Coach Nagy, what he's done as a head coach. And, look forward to seeing you guys in person.
Big thank you to Coach Inglesby for taking time to join us. It was a lot of fun just being able to spend time with him. And Salukis will now get their second crack at a Coach Inglesby team at Delaware. And he really went in depth on his team. I think what's going to be interesting, Coach Watson, is the obvious one. Who's going to be available for this Delaware team? This is going to be, when we look at this team down the road, I don't think it's going to be any surprise to either of us that this team is much better in the later months when they actually get all their pieces, because right now that is a challenge, and he spoke to that. Be more interested to just see who is ready to go for Delaware come Sunday.
Yeah, they've got 9 new players, 6 transfers, 3 freshmen, 6 returners. One of the returners, Kevin Riley, is one that they were really counting on. He got hurt early in the game, in their very first game. They've got a guy that will definitely, we'll mention his name a lot, and Macon Emery, 6'8", a sophomore, 4-time high school state champion. Man, that's pretty impressive. A guy by the name of Marcus Timmons did that, and I don't know many other people that I've been associated with that can put that next to their resume, but Emery has done a great job of rebounding. He can score. They've just got back another guy by the name of Justin Fernandez, who's a 6'6" guard that can give them scoring both inside and outside. He's 2 for 5 in his first game coming back. So they've got some good pieces. It looks like most of their scoring comes from their starters. It looks like that's where a big, heavy load of their 70-point average comes from. One stat that sticks out to me is they've not held a team under 72 points yet, or certainly under 70. But on the flip side, Southern hasn't held a Division I team under 78 points. So that part, I know this week, both those coaching staffs are trying to get that piece taken care of. Both teams are good scorers. Delaware is as well. They shoot the 3 better than Southern does so far. So we'll see how this all plays out.
We wanted the opportunity to talk to Andy Kennedy, and it wasn't that he didn't want to, the head coach of UAB. They play on Friday night against South Alabama. So their schedule in terms of a turnaround, they will not play Southern until Monday, but that's going to be their first game of the Jacksonville Classic, as they're calling it this week in Jacksonville. So they're going to go Monday. Tuesday, they will play UTEP in their second game of this 2-game MTE. So just from that standpoint, Coach Watson, and looking at the Blazers, it's a team that I don't want to say they're going to have a little bit more rest, but they're going to get Southern playing their second game of the tournament, which, of course, that is a little bit different when you're coming in after a little bit of rest.
Plus, when a team plays under 24 hours, Southern's got enough in their tank. I mean, there's going to be enough in their tank to beat a team, but it is different. It's kind of, you know what it's like? It's going to be there's going to be some semblance to the Valley tournament. If you play on Thursday, you're going to turn it around within 24 hours, and you're going to beat a team that is going to have a higher seed for whatever reason. And so that's going to be good experience for Southern in the long run, knowing how much they've got in their tank. When it comes March, hopefully Southern won't be a Thursday team, but in case you are, you've got that real live experience of what it takes to dig down a little deeper.
Are you ready for the sunshine, Coach Watson? I know we were talking about the weather forecast, not to rub it in to all of us, to all of our folks here in the Midwest, but we're going to get some really nice weather here upcoming in Jacksonville this weekend.
Sunny and mid-70s sounds really good right now after you've been out mowing in the rain for a couple of days.
See, this is where I almost feel like you're going to bring your business at times on the road. Like, I'm actually kind of surprised that you don't have like a driver ahead of us and just meet you down there at the lawnmower and then just get it off and go. Like, I'm
Don't think
surprised
that's
that
not in the
hasn't
business plan, Luke. We are right now. There's some talk. There is some talk, but that'll be for later discussions.
happened. Is that the GM, Carol Watson, has put the axe on that for right now? Or is
Yeah, the GM's not overly sold on the wintertime mowing concept, but we're still trying to work that out somehow.
Well, it should be a lot of fun this weekend. Again, we hope you join us from Jacksonville, Florida. Sunday, our tip-off for that game will be 2 o'clock Central Time, which means our coverage will begin at 1 o'clock on Saluki Radio, and we'll turn right back around on Monday, be a little bit of an earlier tip. It'll be 12:30 Central on Sunday. It'll be 12:30 Central on Monday, which means our pregame coverage will begin at 11:30 Monday morning from sunny Jacksonville, Florida. Again, a big thank you to Coach Inglesby for taking time to join us. It was really fun to chat with him. And as always, we appreciate the Hall of Famer, Rodney Watson, for taking time to come on and preview the games this week. So for my partner, the coach Rodney Watson, I am Luke Martin saying so long, Saluki Nation. We will talk to you Sunday, sunny Jacksonville, Florida. Until then, go Dogs.
This has been Saluki Royalty, the official podcast for Saluki Athletics. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review however you listen. The preceding has been a Learfield presentation on the Saluki Sports Network.